Hi Chloe, and thanks again for asking about ISO 14001. To recap on our conversation earlier, the way we would approach the implementation of ISO 14001 within Mango is like this. So we'd begin by working with you to identify your environmental aspects, and we would build those into a register of environmental aspects. This is based on something from within our own register, but I know we were talking about, for you, a big impact would come from your transport. And the register would be tailored to reflect your impacts. As with the next part of the puzzle, and that's the identification of the relevant legislation. So we said that you'd also be generating waste. So we'd look at what of these pieces of legislation were relevant to you and how. And if it's not compliant, we'd work with you to identify how that needs to become compliant. Perhaps we're looking at energy. Again, there will be things that could become applicable to you. So eventually we'd end up with a comprehensive register of all the legislation that applies, of all the relevant environmental legislation that applies to your organisation. Armed with the aspects register and the legal register, we've then got the ability to create relevant documents to support the process. So for instance, we'd take a look at working with you to define the context, the needs and expectations of interested parties. And you'd go on to build various different pieces. So here is an example of the environmental aspects procedure that would accompany the register that we've already seen. What the standard then requires is that you test that you're doing what you say you're doing. So we do that through a series of internal audits, and we can set those up in the back end of the system, and this is very customizable and can be tailored to exactly your requirements. And for instance, we've got one here designed around the requirements of 14001. This is where I suggested that based on your current capacity, you might want to save money on consultancy fees by taking this and using it as a self-assessment exercise, so that if you answer honestly, you'll know what you've got and what you still need to do. So the audits are really useful. No matter how well implemented your system is, the standard recognises that things can and do go wrong. So there's a system here to enable you to report an environmental incident, and that gets funneled into a register from where the coordinator can assign it to somebody to investigate. So you end up with full visibility and traceability over who's doing what, where, when and why. Oh, and meanwhile, in terms of your environmental monitoring, if we come back to a moment, to the plant and equipment module, we talked about how in your case, the use of company vehicles is going to account for probably your most significant environmental aspect. So not only can you actually link a car to or a vehicle to an individual employee, you can set events, some of which will link to your environmental performance, but you can even record how many miles have been carried out in a particular time frame. Now this is useful for perhaps helping to monitor your CO2 emissions, which in turn enables you to use fact-based information when you move through to the management review meeting process. Oh, and look, remember we said that we could create environmental incidents? if you've linked it to the relevant plant or equipment, it links through here as well. So you'll find that Mango is a really joined up system, making it really easy for you to manage your environmental management system. I hope that's helped to give you a brief overview of how you could use Mango to help manage your ISO 14001, but please do drop me a line if you need anything else. Thanks, Chloe. Bye.